Hi, it's Renee, John's girlfriend, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about some history as well as some science because I am that recreational neurologist. I consider myself as such. We're going to talk a little bit about John when he was 22 years old. When he was 22 years old, he had some seizures, and they did a CAT scan and they found a mass. And they didn't even open them up. They didn't know what, they just kind of left it alone because they knew if they opened it up, there was no treatments at that point in time for what they suspected it was an astrocytoma. So they just kind of let it rest to wait for treatments. And he has been very lucky to come down with this during this point in history, because it seems like every time his cancer gets bad, there's another treatment for it. But he was 22 years old when they first found it, and I think one of the first questions that went through his mind, as well as his family's and his friends, is he's 22 years old. Where did this come from? And there's three possible theories, and at the same time, cancer just happens, and the rate of brain cancer has tripled. It's tripled since World War II. So it's kind of something to think about. But with John, he had a grandfather that had a brain tumor in his 60s, and there was not treatment at that time. So he did have it in the family. It's possible. It could be hereditary. Two, he grew up just downwind from the EPA Superfund site known as the acid pits. And there's a real high occurrence of cancer in that part of Riverside, California. Three, he was a wrestler, and I've been hearing more and more in the news about people that are in sports that do trauma to their head, and they have issues. And he was very successful at wrestling, but he landed a lot on this side of his head. So could he have hit it? The cells started going crazy, and 4 years later, he has cancer. You know, we will never know where John got cancer. I mean, it could have just been a fluke. But whether it was DNA, whether it was some chemical floating downwind, or whether it was he hit his head and inflammation started to begin, at 22 he had a mass that was about the size of a clam on his, right here on top, and it lays right on top of his brain. It's not inside the brain. So that's what happens. Cancer, your cells start to metastasize and start to go crazy. And it starts to grow, as we talked about before, this highway of a vascular system of its own. And our body is always replenishing our capillaries and our blood system, and cancer mimics this. And it's not very good at mimicking it. So if you look at our vascular system, it looks like a super highway. And if you look at a cancer vascular system, it looks like off-roading. So these medicines that they've been designing, these anti-angiogenesis medicines, have been successful in this cancer vascular system is not very efficient, not like our own bodies. Although, you know, it grows and it doesn't go away. And so there's also some foods that can be incorporated that actually cause anti-angiogenesis, is what they have found. And so we've incorporated those into John's diet. One is green tea, and we'll talk more in further videos about some of the research with the green tea. Another one is turmeric, which is it's like a herb from curry. So Indian food, turmeric's really been found to be very effective. Certain kinds of mushrooms, shiitake mushrooms, portobello mushrooms. John really likes those. So those help with this anti-angiogenesis. And also constantly being aware of inflammation. Any kind of cancer, I mean, it makes sense that your cells expand if there's inflammation, and if they're metastasizing, you know, that just helps it grow this vascular system even faster. So three ways that can really address the inflammation are nutrition, exercise, and emotional balance. And I think you know, as we progress in the videos, and if you haven't seen that already, John has an amazing attitude and an amazing emotional landscape. How has he made it 24 years with a cancer that has, it's a pretty bleak prognosis, and he's gone 24 years. And how does that happen? You know, it's wonderful. It's wonderful to witness. But so that's a little background on the history of his cancer and some of the things that we're doing on the home front, that we can do on the home front. Of course, nothing replaces the doctors and the science. I mean, John's really been lucky to be in a place with amazing doctors and amazing research. He's kind of in the heart of it. And every time he gets sick, there's a new treatment. So yeah, that's a little background there, and I look forward to showing you some videos on the foods that cause anti-angiogenesis, and talk a little bit about things that cause inflammation and things that cause non-inflammation. Thank you so much.